word to the wise, we are an explicit podcast tackling content with adult themes as well as entering spoiler territory if you aren't caught up with us. This week, that would be through
A Journey's End, Chapter 12 of Sun Eater.
Now,
Book 2, Howling Dark.
An addendum here. This is the first of a two-part episode. In this episode, we're only going to be covering the road to Vorgossos. However, things may spill over a little bit. So read through A Journey's End.
Okay, cool.
I do want to take one moment out of here just to mention something else here. This episode is coming out in February. Obviously, it's coming out the week of Valentine's Day. There is a singular week left at which you, dear listener, can shop at one of my favorite stores supporting an incredible artist, Cautet19. So you can check out cautet19.net. You know, Thomas would be mad that I'm giving out a free advertisement in quotes, but a long time big fan of all of the work and artwork that he did over the years for all the various Stephen King properties. And he's doing it until the 20th. So if you want to check it out, there's a lot of really great shirts ranging from comfort colors to everything else to sweatshirts. I bought us a legion of things for when we cover the Dark Tower because him closing up shop, I was like, I want to make sure that we've got the gear and apparel to like rock at different points. So I spent like $300 on a variety of different shirts for us to have over the course of that series. So check it out over at Cautet19. You can find a link in our bio, but just a shout out there.
Sweet.
I think he's running 10% off too, so you can save at least 10.
How do you spell that?
KATET-19 the numbers .net.
I would have done it wrong, so there you go.
Yeah.
I also just realized usually I feel like we do these more in the Devil's Cut area, but did you want to take a shot?
Yeah. This is in the second episode, but this is for Gen. Cheers.
Hey, for Gen.
Mm-hmm. Hey there, this is Kross.
This is Josh.
And we are Words and Whiskey, a podcast for veteran and novice readers alike. We tackle fiction novels and love to talk about what we're drinking. You should think of us as your intoxicating weekly book club. Book club.
We're in a book club hat if you're just listening. It says book club. Whenever I say book club hat, I don't mean it's like a hat I got at a book club. It's just a hat that says book club.
And this week, we are talking about Howling Dark. And not Lesser Devil. Lesser Devil coming soon. Probably, honestly, after this two-parter episode, you'll hear us talk about the Lesser Devil. But very excited for today's episode. We're splitting it into two parts, like mentioned above. Yeah.
How
do you feel about Howling Dark so far, Josh? By Mr. Rocky.
Yeah, this shit rocks.
Yeah.
It is wild how... I mean, it's the same series. Obviously, it's still the same tone and feeling and everything. But wild how different this book is so far from the first one. It really kicks the door down. It's I spent a lot of time wondering when the story was going to start in the first one, but enjoying the process. And in this one, it was like, "What's up, motherfucker? Get in."
Yeah, dude, get in the fucking car. Yeah.
Yeah. No time to explain, but come with me if you want to read about fucking robot zombies. Fucking robot zombies, not fucking robot zombies.
Right.
Maybe. I don't know where this book goes. There's been a lot of space, there's been more sex in this book so far than there was in the entirety of the last books.
Yeah. This book goes off so quick, so fast. And you can see the comparison that I've made previously to, like, you know, the first book feels like, and I don't mean this comparison in like a textual matter, but like kind of feels like Red Rising, where it isn't the same as the story that comes next, which is Golden Sun.
Yeah.
And Howling Dark has that same vibe immediately, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking about the action down in the sunken city, if you will, that we're going to be talking about later. And it immediately, my mind did kind of go to like the gala in Golden Sun. I was like, oh, this has that same like off the rip, wasn't expecting this to go so hard so fast. And there's a lot of cool shit to talk about in this first section. So
Yeah. So again, just as a reminder, this episode, you know, two-parter here. We're going to cover all the way. In theory, we could spoil through A Journey's End, but we're just going to be talking about the road to Vorgossos. Since we're doing this kind of like two-parter, half-y episode, you know, there'll be full episodes on their own because there's a lot to talk about. But since we're doing this, we're going to actually start off with our drink segment here, specifically about the beer that we're having, and in the back half, we're going to have a cocktail. So,
yeah,
Josh, what you drinking?
We're going light. This is a daytime recording. We usually do these in the afternoon a lot of the time, but or evening if it's a weekday. But it's a nice crisp Saturday afternoon. So I got myself a little light a light lager. It's a Bitburger.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, just a German Pils. Sorry, not lager, Pilsner. Which is technically still a lager, but
yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah, just drinking a little German Pils. It's refreshing. It's nice. It's gold. And it tastes yummy. It kind of, I mean, all Pilsners do this a little bit, but this one's really doing the thing where it tastes like a prairie. Like it tastes
grass,
golden and weedy and sunny. Nice.
Yummy. What'd you shoot at the top of the episode?
Yeah, some Trader Joe's London Dry gin.
Okay.
Today. We're doing gin today because I'm making a gin cocktail later. We'll get to that when we get to that, but
yeah, fun. I shot vodka, of course, for Gen. You know, in my mind, I was like, I'm not going to make a vodka cocktail, but I'm going to do, a vodka shot, since that's what Syrian has at the very end of the part.
I guess I'm shooting gin because it sounds like gin.
Oh, it does. It does. Yeah. That's a fair point.
That's not the reason I did it, but yeah.
One of my favorite newer local breweries that just opened up just also started doing. They opened up a couple of months ago, but they just started doing crowlers this last week. So I'm having Arts and Crafts by MOBA. It's great. 6.5% hazy that also just launched this week. It's excellent. It's good.
That's a creamy. That's a creamy one right there. That is dense.
Lightly peach flavored, like in it as well, and it blossoms. It's great. Absolutely love it.
More breweries should put stone fruit in their IPAs. I think stone fruit in general, any of them, always work really, really well.
Yeah, it's delightful.
Real quick before we move on from the beer section, I just wanted to make sure you understand how much I prioritize you, these books, and our listeners. There's a Russian River tap takeover starting in 1 hour. Off the street, walking distance from me. Pliny the Younger, Double Dry Hop, Pliny the Elder, Double Pliny the Younger. A bunch of shit that like you can never get. And I'm choosing you.
That is crazy, and I would be hard pressed, frankly. I have been to Russian River Valley Brewery just the one time when I did the Iron Man forever ago. And
I've also been once. So.
Yeah. My parents are actually currently they're in Paso right now, but they're going to Napa on Wednesday or Tuesday or something like that. So I asked for them to stop and try to grab a bottle. So maybe we'll try to get two.
Amazing. Yeah. But it's happening right up the street in North Park Beer Co. If you're ever in SoCal, dear listener, go to North Cal Beer Co. North Park Beer Co. North Park, not North Cal. I got confused because we're talking about Russian River, which is in Northern California. North Park Beer Co. It's in North Park, if the name didn't give that away, in San Diego.
One more quick shout out. Part of the reason that we're doing these two-parters and like catching up and everything else and released The Long Walk, of course, is because you got snowed in New York, which we talked about extensively on The Devil's Cut. So people can subscribe to the Patreon, patreon.com/words and whiskey, and you can listen to us talk about it there. But I did want to briefly mention that we both, within the span of a month, got to go to my favorite brewery, or one of them at the very least, KCBC. So
incredible brewery. Love the mural.
Very cool.
Yeah, super cool area too. So
that's where I lived, man. I lived 2 blocks away from there.
That's so sick. So if you're on one coast, go to North Park Beer Co. If you're on the other coast, go to Kings County Brewing Collective. Yeah. KCBC.
KCBC. Yeah, it's one of the few breweries in New York City. So you can find it. It's out in Brooklyn, in Bushwick. So
Brooklyn.
Right off the L or the MJ. So
yeah, we're not going to spend any more time talking about New York, but I do just want to say that having gone this most recent time, spending most of our time in Brooklyn fucking rocks.
I fucking love Brooklyn. I like Manhattan's fine, aggressively fine. Brooklyn rules. Yeah. Queens is great. Yeah.
Manhattan rocks in the same way as like the downtown of any city does, sure, I'll go party in Gaslamp in San Diego every couple of months because someone has like a birthday and they want to, but like I'm not going there on purpose. I feel like that's Manhattan.
I'm not living there
in New York. Right. Yeah, exactly. So
yeah.
All right.
Cool. All right. Well, with that, let's get into these 6 chapters that we want to talk about here. We're going to start with The Red Company, which of course is also the name of our group here. Now, I'm curious, as we we come to this before we fully dive into this. Actually, we're just going to kick it off. We come to Hadrian waking up from death from a state of fugue, blending images of Gibson with those of helping wake him up. As he reflects on the past couple of months, including a run-in with Bordelon as they attempted to gain ground as a mercenary group. Okoye drains him of fluid, and we grasp the fact that 48 years have passed on board the Pharaoh, or since collectively the time shift. We know as well that Hadrian now is 30 years old. How do you feel about the time jump here?
Time is weird in these books, man.
Yeah.
It's been 48 years, and I have aged 6.
Right, exactly.
Which does say just how long they've been doing this. Like 48 years could be a lot of time or not a lot of time, depending on fugue state. But like the fact that he's spent like 6 years awake, right? Like I think he was around 20, like his early 20s at the end of Empire of Silence. I think it was like 23, 24. So being 30 now, like that's a lot of stuff they've been doing. He took down an entire like different, I'm a little confused on it from the details, but maybe like a crime boss or something. I don't know. They got more people joining their crew they've been doing some stuff. Also, just those like first lines, I thought this book was jumping in like they got captured and were being fish hooked, actually, because he mentions like feels like a fish hook pulling me out. And before I realized what was going on, I'm like, damn, we're coming straight into them like hanging from fish hooks. But no, okay, it was just the confusion of the fugue state. I love, as he's coming out also, just the way how the like confusion and like the haziness of the whole situation is written. Like, oh, I think I'm hiding in a storeroom. I'm with Kat. No, Kat's dead. No, I'm here with, is that Gibson? Wait, I'm dead. No, wait, I'm alive. So I'm here with Kat in a storeroom. Like this like weird, like just like the brain not connecting anything. It was
and then
so
seeing the flashes of Bordelon, of Gilliam Voss, of like all these people that he's killed, right? Yeah. I did want to make mention of one thing here. So there's a quote that I really like. The actor knows he is on a stage. The character knows there is no stage, which is just such a... There's so many... It should be eminently clear that Rocchio's writing blossomed between these books as well. Beyond the fact that like he ruled at prose before, now he's more concise, like a little bit more concise, a little bit tighter.
Yeah.
Still has some of the same like flowery like world building aspects, but then also just like dials in some of these punches. This is the book that I fell in love with the series in. Almost immediately.
It feels to me like Empire of Silence was written by somebody who is very, very good at writing. Howling Dark is written by a writer.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like he was figuring out how to take a natural and hard learned and practiced skill of his, and now it's not just he's somebody who is good at writing, but this is
yeah, right,
that's what he does now, like, and you can feel it.
Yeah, you can tell that he went from editor in a big way, which is what he was at the time when he was writing Empire and otherwise, adapting it from Empire of the Murdered Son into Empire of Silence, into this kind of final form here. And I really love it. It's very evident. That quote is great. I do want to make mention of one thing here at the very top. This really doesn't come into play until the next episode in which we're going to talk about it, but I think it's relevant for people of whom might be reading the series for the first time or have the collector's editions or other things like that. I want to thank a listener of the podcast and friend of the show, Howling Bookmark. Check him out on Instagram. For sending me a couple of things. I saw that there was a unique introduction in the broken binding version of the book. It will eventually be published or collected in a short story collection down the road, but for the time being, it's exclusive to the releases. So I want to talk a little bit about it. It is a Vorgossi. It's the exchange between Lynn and Rain Smythe that we really get into around chapter 11. So I just want to mention that here. It's really cool. I highly recommend anyone seek it out. It's treated like an introduction to the text. It gives some information on Went and Bordelon, just a little bit of like hints as to the action that had came before, which is kind of, a fun additional note. But again, thank you, Howling Bookmark, for taking that down for us.
Nice. Well, I didn't read it, so
no. I actually realized that I forgot to send it to you, and I got it on Wednesday. So
wow, so you're making me talk about the book. You haven't given me the whole book. That's crazy.
Here's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6.
Hey,
you
guys,
can see.
do you ever have your friend be like, "Hey, do you want to come do this podcast with me? It's like a book club. We're gonna read the books together. We're gonna read the same things." And then you get there, and he's like, "Oh, by the way, there's a whole part of the book you didn't even get to read. Ha ha ha! Aren't you stupid?"
Yeah. I feel bad about it a little bit. Only because I definitely intended to send it to you, but then I went from sick to like feeling okay again to very sick. Like I
feel like
yeah.
we've recorded plenty of episodes where you're like, "Oh, I'm
Right.
sick right now," but it's
No
like
big deal. Yeah.
no big. Whenever you're like, "Oh, I'm sick. I can't do tonight."
I was really trying to power
Are
through
you
it,
dying?
It felt like I was, to be honest. For context, I had a friend's engagement party that was supposed to happen this weekend in Atlanta. We got 5 inches of snow, which is legendary amounts for North Carolina, for Wilmington. It hasn't happened in 31 years, literally as old as we are. Is the last time that it snowed this much here. And I began to be sick, and I was like,
I'm
man,
32,
combination of
but,
things. Well, I know, asshole. I'm about to be 32, so. By the time this episode comes out, I'm basically 32. So, yeah. By the time the other part of this episode comes out, I will be 32.
31 again. You're right.
There's a weird time conflux, going on here as we're recording this. Speaking of time dilation.
Fugue is weird.
Anyway, I meant to send them to you. But again, in exclusive for the time being to the Broken Binding, we'll talk about it. We'll have a little break where you can read them real quick.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Anyway, I want to make mention of that here. So, we then come to Basander Lynn, of course, of whom we knew to be kind of an interesting character at the very end of the last book that was kind of introduced. He's introduced as Hadrian's enemy and his last friend, right? As these sort of like 3 different stages. I think he's also said to be like a faithful, like... There's an implication there of a couple of different stages of their life and his final friend. And so it's interesting to see this being the mad Basander Lynn, this being the angry one, as he turns out to be. And has this captain role. Hadrian has this Commodore as a persona, and he's made this room baron, which was Bordelon's, of course, which is such an interesting thing that says a lot about this patrician character. And they discuss their next steps towards Vorgossos, this sort of hidden planet where we believe that our next step in the story lies in many different ways, from the Cielson negotiations and otherwise, and that is the Painted Man that we found information out about. Basander, however, is equally worried about the loyalty of the Federati that they brought on board.
Whoa, that's a lot of words.
That's a fucking lot of words, yeah. I'm trying to condense these down as much as possible, yeah.
I think I can see the possibility of a future where Basander Lynn grows on me. But as of right now, fuck that guy.
Yeah. I love Basander. I loved him here because he's an asshole in like you can he's a paladin. This man is a paladin in so many ways,
the one class I've never played.
Oh yeah, fair.
But man, what a Boy Scout, but like
absolutely absolute Boy Scout.
I also want to know what I know he cleared out all of the pornographic art from the room. I want to know who has it now. Where did that go?
Somebody ended up with it.
Yeah, I know it's still on the ship.
But a cot without a blanket says a lot about the man.
Just a cot without a blanket. You can still see the outline of where the big bed was, and it's just a cot sitting in the middle. What a guy. Also, just. We don't get too far into it in this first chapter, but he's already being annoying.
He's beginning that path, yeah.
Yeah, but like, oh man, the guy's really like he's a real rule follower, and I don't get down with that.
He's got an oath, man. He's absolutely a paladin. I totally get it. I find there's an interesting comparison at the very end of this section in which, and again, like I said, we're going to spoil through that, so please be mindful. But Hadrian continues to refer to himself as like bringing in stoicism and bringing in all these other things. Motherfucker, it's Basander that's more of the stoic than you are in every 100%. Context. And this is such a good example of that sort of like spare living and like the sparse sort of a pure and approval. Like, much better scholiast, holding those scholiast virtues than Hadrian can.
Yeah. Which there's some interesting thing. Like, I love kind of Hadrian's reflection on some scholiast virtues throughout this entirety section that we will be talking about. I like that whenever it gets to the one about like love consuming, he's like, that's my least favorite one. He picks and chooses his scholiast virtues very much so all the way throughout the first book, so it's fun to see him being like, yeah, but I don't really like this one.
Yeah, he's like, that's my least favorite of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Oof. They bring up the Painted Man here. I'm excited to talk about the Painted Man.
Yeah.
If we can't yet.
We're gonna talk a lot about the Painted Man here, but the mission is
even
the Painted Man.
Even just the moment that like you get that first mention, I'm like, all right, like I'm so down. We're going into like a grimy underbelly of of like a makeshift futurist city created from the bones of old ships, and we're gonna meet some guy named the Painted Man. You know, like it's so I think you mentioned Blade Runner, but it has like a very Blade Runner-y vibe. It also kind of has like a classic like
it's
like
cyberpunky.
Almost, it's like cyberpunk noir, you know? Like it's great. I dig it, and I was immediately like, ooh, who's this Painted Man? I need to know. So.
I know that Rockio is a big fan of Neil Stevenson, I think in particular of Snow Crash, and it's very clear for anyone who's read that like this section in particular feels very inspired by that, as sort of like, you know, not obviously like Neuromancer early on that sort of cyberpunk train, but definitely like a definitive work in the space that comes through here, both in the Blade Runner aesthetic as we get into the Suspended and the Undead, or the Sunken City itself. Sorry, that chapter. But Hadrian makes the point clear that out of their leadership team of Basander, Volca, and himself, that he's really the only option to send. No one else is kind of expendable in the way that he is. After he meets up with Switch in a hallway, we love Switch and chatting. They head their way towards Balmung, one of the 3 different ships, which is the destroyer that is under the command of Genon. And I just have to say, Balmung, I don't know if you knew the name, but name of an ancient sword from the Volsung cycle, which is also the inspiration in the long run for the Lord of the Rings. So,
that's sick. I did not. I did not know that at all. I just read that and I went, that's a word, and I moved on.
Yeah, right.
Super cool. Balmung.
Balmung.
Let's look into that.
Yeah.
I love Switch. Switch shows up, I get happy. I'm still kind of sad he's here. I think Hadrian could have saved his friends and just put him on a ship way earlier and not brought them on a death mission for 50 years. But hey, what do I know? I'm not.
And he's leathered. He's like aging, you know, badly.
He's because he doesn't got that fancy blood. So Switch is like in his late 40s, I'm assuming at this point. He's making his way through, but
I think it's like early 40s.
Early 40s. Hey, Twink Death comes for us all. But I have to say, I know we're talking about the books and what's in them more so than the specific thing, but just a shout out for the audiobook listeners. I do think that Switch is my favorite voice that Samuel Rukin does.
Right there. He's in my top 5. Basander in particular in this book is one of my favorites. I love angry Basander in the back half of this like part.
Yeah.
He portrays such malice through his voice and like rage that I love it.
He does. For some reason, Switch is just the character that I like. He just sounds so different from everybody else. It's like he slips into it and I feel like there's a different person in the room, and I love it.
Him and Volca,
right.
Yeah. And
Volca
but Basander is like full on. Basander is a little bit like his dad, in a way, but like
a little Alistair-ish.
Yeah, he's got a little bit, but Alistair's more like sneering. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's because his smile's all sideways.
True. That is
you
how
think
that
the Palatine
happens.
blood would have given them equal
straight
motor
lips?
function in the face, but apparently not. So,
that's how it happens.
Like I have a crooked smile, but everything's deformed on my body. So
I had so many jokes and I just let them all slip away.
That's fair. I mean, I could start at the top and work my way down. I wouldn't get past the section.
I was starting at the bottom and working my way up, but yeah.
Oh, okay. We'll meet in the middle, which is also deformed.
Which means you're talking about your dick, not me. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I'll take the balls though.
That's good.
With that said,
they're deformed because the balls come first on me. Actually, they're up top.
They're actually right below. You can't see it because of video, right? But it's like right below his chest. They're just in the center of his chest.
The whole situation looks like the Muppet Gonzo, just like and then the elephant trunk under.
So with my homunculus partner out of the way, looking away from our 2-mile-long knife-like ship, we see the planet of Rustum. Its pocked surface damaged by the sea the rating of this Norman expanse here. We're in a completely different part of space. We're outside of the Empire. Hadrian closes his eyes against the dark and finds only another there, deeper still. Dark, capital D. Yeah.
Big old D. The Howling Dark, even.
Right. Not quite. He doesn't say Howling Dark, but he does say dark.
Yeah. So planet's pocked. Yeah, I guess it was hit by Cielson at one point.
Yep.
We get that. Beyond that, I don't really know what's going on with all that. I know we still don't, like me, I don't really have a very clear understanding of what a real Cielson invasion looks like, because like the only time we had a Cielson invasion, it wasn't an invasion, it was like a religious outing.
16 people.
Yeah. Exactly. So like it's interesting to see like the pocked, scarred face of the planet. Like, are they got big Death Star laser cannons, or are they mining when they get there? I don't know.
We know that they fly around on asteroids, effectively, like cold, like internal
big, icy towers in the night sky.
Right. This is kind of our first description, though, of like the destroyer class ships. And the sort of like cities and like length and like the way that it cuts through and like
long.
A fin.
Yeah.
What'd you think of our giant ships?
I was like 2 miles long, man. I tried to picture it, and then I started laughing while driving and like missed the next couple of lines because I just started thinking of the intro to Spaceballs. Where it just keeps going.
Going. Yeah, that's absolutely it, for sure.
Yeah. But it definitely puts it into like an idea. It's also like I'm curious, kind of based on the descriptions, because you're used to seeing a ship in sci-fi very much so based off of the same types of models across all of them, very like aerodynamic, I guess. And there's usually like a glass viewport and like a hub sort of towards the top, and then it kind of has like the shape of a shoe, but realistically, I mean, that wouldn't necessarily be, it doesn't really matter what shape your ship is, there's no drag, so I'm curious, like what these ships actually look like. Are they these like, I mean, we get like a knife mention here, but like, are we thin? Are we just a big box? Are we a tower?
I take it as thin, right? So it's like thin like a knife blade, but then there's this fin that comes out that is also the like central tower. So I almost imagine like a Star Destroyer, but as opposed to that like square boxy like command center, it's instead more like a shark's fin coming out of the top, and that's like where the command tower is.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. For that ship in particular, but
and we don't get a physical description of the other ship, do we?
So there are kind of three, right? There's the Balmung, there's the Mistral, and there's whatever the fuck they're on right now.
The Pharaoh?
The Pharaoh, yes. Yeah. And I think that this describes the Pharaoh, if I remember correctly. The Balmung is described as like old, also huge, but smaller, sort of more boxy in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Kind of like you were describing. So it's a variety of a fleet. It makes them look like, an amalgam.
And I think we get specifically into this in the next chapter, but like we kind of talk about, one of them is like way faster. The other ones are slower. Right. Was it the Pharaoh that's the super fast one? Or okay.
I think the Mistral is the fastest ship.
Okay.
But
that one's super fast. The other one's
Balmung is slow as hell. Yeah.
And the Balmung is the one that actually has the like the Cielson and Fugue on them, or there was one ship that had them that they can't move them from.
I think it's the Balmung. I think so.
Is that the one all of his friends are on that he wishes he was on?
Most of the time, yeah.
Sorry, it's a lot of ships to keep up with. I'm trying to get my...
Yeah. I think that's the grounding. We'll double check at the end of this, because really that's where a lot of this gets addressed, is in 12.
Yeah. Trying to keep my Myrmidons in order here, but...
where they're at, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I think they were waking up in the Balmung, and then they were going to be headed off to the Mistral. Yeah, I think that's right.
Side tangent.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, go ahead.
I said Myrmidons.
Yeah.
I'm in the process of starting a new music project just with Brandon, my friend, who is the guitarist for Social Cues. Very like kind of electronic driven emo hardcore type thing. What do you think of the name To Make a Myrmidon as a band name?
That's pretty good. Yeah.
Anyways, moving on. Just
Myrmidon. Yeah. That's good. I like it.
It's a chapter straight out of
straight out of Sun Eater. Yeah. That's pretty good. I like it. Cool.
All right, moving on.
Sweet. Suspended and undead. We then run into Velka, and Hadrian's hiding from us that something has happened since now and Amesh. While Hadrian shares intimate details about the waking nightmares he experiences, she brushes it off as she is frustrated with the lack of progress overall from the alien xenologist side of things, since she has been asleep longer than Hadrian has and hasn't had a single opportunity to talk with the Xenobites since. They have been frozen this whole time since Amesh.
It's almost like they could have unfroze them and maybe they could have helped, but it's fine. Or maybe they would have eaten them. Hard to say.
Tough to say. They do eat people.
But, I mean, I would too if I was a seal, so I don't know. I love the moment in the end of the last chapter where Bassander's like, we're a military operation. We're not like a charter service for your harem. Mm-hmm. And he's like, one woman is hardly a harem. And he gets all, ugh. And like, there's this implication all the way up until this moment that it is Velka. And then we get to Velka, and it's such a kind of cold. I noticed the way how he describes her is so different here. And so much more, I guess, kind of clinical. And there's like a coldness to the description based on how he was describing her in the previous book. And like, it becomes immediately clear, like, oh, Velka is not the woman that they were talking about there. And I kind of like the way it's set up and then revealed. It's,
Yeah, it begs a lot of questions, and it does, to me at the very least, especially with Bassander's kind of implications there, suggest that like he knows that Hadrian fumbled a bag or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And is like, dude, you're just fucking around. Like you're just playing around with people now. I don't know. It suggests a greater understanding from Bassander, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have the context of the rest of the story. It's the whole point of the podcast, but I don't think Velka was ever interested. So
yeah.
I'd be frustrated if I was her too, and I came along to talk to Cielson, and then aliens. They never took them out, and then we didn't see any aliens, and I just stayed asleep while other people went and played mercenary for like 50 years.
Right. That'd be pretty disappointing, wouldn't it?
I'd say it's not even really a crash out, but the mild crash out here is valid.
It's not even a full crash out. It's just like a, come on, dude.
Yeah. I would say I'd be crashing out. She's keeping it together pretty well here.
Definitely managing well. I mean, given she's kind of trapped in this situation, right? There's no out in a lot of ways. With that, Gen and Polino join in for a second, riffing with their old boy, and it makes for a good time between the three of them. You know, we get kind of buddy with our guys.
Yeah. I guess we've said it before. I'll say it again. We'll say it a few more times. Again.
Again.
It's cool to see him here. I can't help but think the same thing that I already said, and that is why are they here, Hadrian?
Yeah.
It's nice. It's nice that you got your buddies with you. It's cool that they're helping you out.
You freed him.
If your goal was to free him, you could have done that way earlier and not put him on a crazy death mission, but it's fine.
At least they're with you, I guess.
Yeah, there's a line somewhere in here, and I don't remember which chapter it is.
I think it's later.
After the Gin thing, where they're like, they would have taken any like road to freedom.
Yeah.
Because he's like, oh, I can't believe I brought Gin here to die.
Yeah.
Spoilers. And someone's like, we would have, or they would have taken any road to freedom. Like they chose to be here. They were just happy to join you and have this opportunity. And I was like, yeah, Hadrian, it's said as like a way to like tell him like, oh, it's not your fault. It's not a bad thing that they're here. You helped them out, and they came here knowing the risks. And I'm like, no, they would have taken any road to freedom. You could have done anything. You didn't have to put them on this ship and bring them into a war effort. You could have just like bought them a taco stand on a mesh and gotten them out of the fucking like anything to get him out of the Coliseum, and he didn't do that. And then now Gin's dead, and I do blame Hadrian, but that's
Hadrian also blames Hadrian, to be fair. So,
and he's right.
Yeah.
And
I agree with him.
Yep. Hadrian, we don't always see eye to eye, but right now we're on the same page about that one. But yeah, it is cool to see them here talking, riffing on each other. It feels nice. it's a fictional character, so I don't have to feel too bad saying it. I'm glad it was Gin and not Switch. That would have really pissed me off. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at least there's that. So finally, we come to Jinan Azhar, of whom we were introduced to in the last book, but we didn't really get a whole lot on, of whom is Hadrian's Jadian love interest over the course of, this full 2 weeks of story that we're going to be talking about. It's great between the two of them, but there's also something foreboding in the background, as Hadrian tells us. Few words in all the galaxy had more power to heal me at that point in my life. It was an innocent time, a period of happiness between two oceans of storm, and the skies were getting darker.
Great, ominous, foreboding line. Really sets up kind of the feeling between these two people. She seems hot, for sure.
Yeah. I love the description that he gives, of which he says, if I were a poet, I might say that she was built like a dancer, slim and compact, but that would be a lie, as is all poetry in part. And motherfucker, if you are not a poet, I am not breathing.
Yeah. He's like, let me write all this poetry, and then been like, but if I was a poet.
Right. Yeah.
For sure. Cool. I also do love in that line, and I kind of added here, there's the but that would be a lie, as is all poetry in part. Later in that chapter, he mentions like a Jadian poem. One lover is many who was seldom seen, which I forgot which of their poets it was as wrote it, but like all poetry, it was a little bit true. So it's like, I love that there's a line earlier that's all poetry is partly a lie, and there's another line shortly after it, all poetry is partly true. And that's fun to me.
Yeah. It's really, it's a good call. Good pull, my guy.
There's like, to me, it shows very much so the two sides of Hadrian. Like, there's the side that is saying all poetry in part is a lie. That's kind of this scholiast side of him that looks for the truth in things. And then there's the part of him that says, like, all poetry is a little bit true, and that's like the melodramatic, like his mother side of things, that is like a romantic and a believer in the truth in poetry and the beauty of humanity and all that. And it's just kind of the two sides of Hadrian thrown together a paragraph apart, and I chuckled in my car when the second one came up. I was like, make up your mind, boy.
Yeah, it's very similar to the echo that happens a lot later here, which is the sort of George Orwell 2 + 2 = 4 versus 2 + 2 = 5 at the very end of the section. So there are a couple of like comparisons therein where like he is kind of pointing out the hypocritical nature of people in different ways and shapes and other things like that. So it's interesting. Yeah. I really dig this section. I do also. You said you laughed at sort of that irony between those parts. I
mean, it's purposeful. Like
right.
And they're not mutually exclusive. If all poetry is a little bit of lie and a little bit of truth, that makes sense. But it's just it's funny kind of how they're presented.
But then also he's also saying that would be a lie as is all poetry, and it's like, motherfucker, again, like you are a poet, and you're like, all right. Who knows? And especially with a line that he says later, it kind of like taints. It doesn't taint, but it suggests questions about a lot of this, which is like, I spread my story in such a way, right? Which we'll talk about at length.
This story, like if he's a poet and he's telling us the story, this story is,
forget which poet it could be. Was it me?
A lie, and it's a little bit true. Like I think that right here really does sum up the story he's telling us against the reality of the events that happened. Yeah, which even kind of come into play with the Orwell mentions later.
Yes, right.
And not to mention, like, this is the guy who talked about how finding truth in art isn't about putting the exact image on the page, but finding the truth through interpreting the image. And that also plays into this, if the pencil drawing that's not as accurate but more truthful, and the poetry is part a lie and part truth. And I don't know, there's just like this idea of art and its interpretations and what is real and what is not.
Yeah, the value of that. Of interpretation.
Truth and realness aren't the same in Hadrian's mind, So,
yeah. I do want to make mention of one more quote from this chapter before we move on.
Yeah.
And it's just a silly one. You said, again, you laughed at kind of those parts. I in particularly particularly this time, laughed at she'd kissed me for an unprofessional length, fingers tight in my hair. And I gotta say, like, what's an unprofessional length? I have so many questions because like it could be a distance between them. Like we kissed from like 9 to 10 inches. We kissed for like, I don't know, like 10, 15 minutes in the hallway, just standing there, one kiss.
Like, I definitely think duration.
Yeah, no, of course.
But also,
like, I love the idea of like Longley like stretching your neck out and being like,
which now you describing that, I see what you mean. Yeah. In the notes, everybody, it says, "What's an unprofessional length? 9 to 10 inches." And I thought you were making a dick joke for sure.
I originally put 5 to 6 inches, and I was like, that's more clearly a dick joke than I intended to be. But yeah right.
9 to 10 is just a very impressive dick joke. So.
Yeah, right. That's a substantial dick joke. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's a big dick joke.
For sure.
Many would say too much. Too much of a dick joke.
Perhaps. Yeah.
I will say that I think like it just means more than like a couple of seconds. I have learned is whenever my bosses start telling me I'm being unprofessional with them at work. You know, you show up, you get to work, you do the morning huddle. But if you linger, that's not very professional.
I forgot that you work for the mob. I forgot.
Hey, you're being so unprofessional. Why are you kissing me for so long?
So long. It was just supposed to be on my hand for a second. You keep kissing me on the lips. Yeah.
Sorry. I'm just trying to show that I respect you. Okay. I respect you so much. I use a little tongue. What's wrong with that?
All right. Okay. With that, I think we should head into the sunken city here. It's just a little tongue.
Boss, what? I'm just saying I'll do whatever for. I'm just trying to. I'm here for the family.
I'm in this for the family. Okay.
And that's why they call me Billy the Tongue. You know what are you gonna do about it?
Billy the Tongue. Oh no. All right. With that, we'll go into Sunken City here. Did you want to? Are you good on your beer? Okay, just making sure. I wasn't sure.
I mean, if now's a good time to refresh, I could grab.
If you want to refresh your beer, that's fine. I've
Why do you say it like
here. So I'm just
you asking if I want to refresh my beer had the same energy as like whenever I'm DMing, and I'm like, yeah, if you want to open that door. What was that? Now I'm afraid to go get another beer.
Please.
What did you put out there?
Poison.
Yeah.
Josh, the Sunken City. The black of space gave way to a sky the color of old cream. And I got to say, that's just kind of gross.
There's better ways to say that. Yep.
That's just kind of gross, Christopher.
Yeah, I'm unfamiliar with the color of old cream. I'd say
later he describes it as kind of orange. And it's like, oh.
Yeah, I've never hung on to it long enough for it to start changing colors. Right. So usually it smells a little funny and you throw it out.
Yeah, right. You're like, ooh, no, God.
Ooh, no.
Yeah.
I guess cheese is yellow and orange, so eventually somewhere in the middle, the color change would happen.
Somewhere in there, it does grow that. Yeah. Anyway, our little crew makes their way to land on the city of Arslan, which in the audiobook sounds like Aslan, like the lion.
Yeah, I was like, Aslan?
Yeah, right, exactly. Switch, Greenlawn, Ilex in attendance, followed by Gan and a number of other members. Ilex in particular is an interesting homunculus as a dryad with chlorophyll skin. They approach this misbegotten cluster of rusty ships, noting how thrown together this whole place feels. Curious as to your thoughts.
It's interesting whenever he talks about them seeing the ships that are the color of old toe fungus.
Fresh toe fungus, actually.
Fresh toe fungus, yeah. Old cream. He does describe later, I think it might be in the next chapter, or it might be later in this chapter, because a lot happens in this chapter. Mm-hmm. But he describes a room smelling like the way coffee tastes, and then he says like dark, bitter, and unpleasant. I was like, fuck you. like coffee. What do you mean? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he's really on one with upsetting descriptions in this chapter.
Yeah, I had a big fuck you between that, and then like he also doesn't like the tea house that he goes to, and it's like, motherfucker, like you just don't like hot beverages. Got it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Fuck off. Yeah. Right.
Go drink your wine.
Yeah. Just drink wine. Okay.
Yeah.
Get your hot brandy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I love the city. I there's something special about like a city being built out of like the bones of like no longer flight ready ships and
Mhm.
stuff. Uh I love a makeshift city in fantasy, there's sci-fi and anything really. It's cool.
Yeah, I mean, like generally, this is like the pirate city in a lot of ways. You know, like in a
Yeah.
fantasy novel, that's like the ships that are like
All the
crashed and
ships
left
that are
over.
yeah, exactly. So
Yeah,
it's so cool. I mean, and it kind of is a pirate city all around if you think about it. Like it's a
right.
little bit lawless. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's. I was like, yeah, we probably have more to say about that. Nope, that kind of summed it up.
I also think that an interesting point that gets brought up here is this kind of concept that these ships would never make it off the ground again. Like these are permanently landed because they're so
Yeah,
big that they can't leave the atmosphere. And I feel like that's such an interesting thing that isn't brought up in enough science fiction series is the obviousness that is, well, it's easier to build these things in space if you can get the materials out there,
yeah.
and then like don't land them, use smaller craft to go up and down more
hmm
seamlessly, right? And that's how we get our 2 mile ships. That's how we get all these bigger craft. That makes sense.
Is that how we did the space stations and stuff, or did those get launched up there? I actually don't know.
I don't know either, actually. That's a great
Yeah.
question. um
Hey, if you're listening to
I
this,
don't
and
think so, actually. I think that it was, no, those are satellites that got launched out of the shuttles. I
yeah,
don't know. I would assume it was built in segments. I mean, I would have, I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, it
yeah,
brought up in segments and
right.
constructed
Yeah.
up there. That's what would make sense to me.
But that
I don't know.
also would seem so difficult because you'd have to hit the same orbital points. And okay, think about it this way, just from a physics perspective, right? Gravity is going to pull those things in. When you add more pieces, it's going to have more gravity, more weight to it. And so then you have to adjust the
Yeah,
distance each time that you're. That is madness.
I mean, it's
In a
not
way,
rocket science.
it isn't. But the rocket science gets you there. So it's like, yeah,
That is crazy, though.
interesting. Yeah, the more that I think about that, I hadn't considered that.
Yeah,
Now I realized that I said they must have. Now I'm thinking they probably didn't. They probably did. Like
right.
but there it couldn't have been. They can't carry.
I've
I'm
never
gonna
asked
have
a
to look this
question
up.
that
I've
ruined
never
you
thought
so
about this.
completely.
I've never thought about this. Fuck. Okay. All right. Well, I'm gonna
Because
be thinking about that for a while now.
both answers feel impossible. Like, how hard is it for us to get anything out of atmosphere? In order to get an entire space station out of atmosphere would be like impossible. But then also like the idea of constructing it while it's up there, while the mass changes,
Hmm.
changing its orbital points and stuff, like that feels impossible.
That feels very difficult at the very
Did
least.
I
It's
just figure
probably the
out that
way.
there is no space station? It's a big conspiracy.
One shipment. Google solved my problem for me. First module. Okay, so they did it by modules. Now I need.
So if you're listening and you're hearing a lot of silence, Kross has to know. So we're taking a moment to learn about how our real world space stations were constructed and put in orbit.
I am just so fascinated by this idea, and obviously, like this is something that's very like out there, and we can be very aware of it. Construction, part of modules,
But I mean, hey, it's fitting to the part of the book that we're talking about, which is the idea that space travel is weird, and like you were talking about, constructing those ships out there and then using smaller craft to get in and out of orbit makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
So this is our first attempts at that process, maybe.
Wow. Okay, so older people than us will probably not be very impressed by this entire subsegment, but I think it is worth noting um, that they did build it over time.
How most things are built.
Notably,
Yeah.
well, okay, motherfucker, they built it in space over time.
Oh shit. Okay.
But not only that, they also by June 5th, 2011, astronauts had made over 159 EVAs to add components to the station, totaling more than 1,000 hours in space to build the space station. However, it's predominantly composed of a number of segments that got basically added over time, predominantly through the combination of Russian and United States like launching up different segments and then combining them in addition to some other countries, of course, adding things. Yeah. Colombia going down was actually a problem. It halted the construction for 3 years, which is a big deal.
Damn.
Yeah. Crazy. Okay. There's so much more there to that, but I really didn't realize how crazy it is.
Are they still expanding it?
As of June 2025, NASA states that there are 43 different modules and elements installed. You can actually see the different components. I would not be shocked if they would replace different pieces as it made sense. But they did, each of them are named differently. Like the pressurized modules are named like Zarya, which is sunrise, and then Zvezda, which is star, and then Destiny and Quest and Poisik and Harmony, and like all these different words that are obviously very interesting from multilingual perspective. Anyway.
And then Dick Butt, because they did one vote,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, China sent Dick Butt, and it connected, but we were like, really? You guys can name it something else?
Yeah. They're like, well, it's DIK. Like,
at least it's not Space Station McSpaceface, you know? But
one just gets sent up as new part V2.
Unity 2.
Yeah. Space Station Project Final V2 Final
V2, final for real final.
Yeah.
All my desktop names for everything ever. I do also love the note that as we descend into the city, that Hadrian's new standard gravity is the Meshi 1.3. This comes in very literally later into the story as like he's able to recover a little bit quicker. But I just love this idea that he was repulsed by the gravity and now he's in a pretty similar gravity to like what he lived in. He's like, I am bound by that Ameshi gravity. I found that to be very, very great for me. And the city, again, like you described earlier, is very Blade Runner-esque with these sort of like floating fish that are holograph painted, fashion models dancing here and there, and whatnot. So,
we kind of skipped over a little bit in the last chapter, but I just thought of it because whenever we get to the Sunken City, we get to see some like there's different homunculus and stuff that are existing amongst different areas. We got a little green tree person.
Yeah, that was earlier. I said that, but that was Ilex. That's this chapter. But yeah. What do you think about Ilex?
Fucking great. Can't wait for Ilex and Saltis to hang out.
Yeah. I love Ilex. She's great, just like Saltis.
Is she gonna die or betray somebody or leave and I never see her again?
I don't know.
Why does he keep writing cool homunculus? Homunculi and then not letting me hang out with the cool homunculi?
Well, I don't know, man.
This lady's a plant. That's so sick. And
literally,
then we move on.
Yeah.
This guy's a little
freak.
A sassy little gorilla. That's so sick. And then we move on. This guy's a literal dancing little devil. So cool. Never going to talk about him again.
I do agree with you. I really like Ilex from the perspective even later when she gets wounded and she's like bleeding amber, you know. Like she is a tree.
She's a tree.
Yeah, she's a
like
tree
that. I like that they're like, and she doesn't eat much besides the sunlight.
Yeah. Literally, Hadrian's like, she doesn't eat much outside of the fact that she drinks sunlight. You know, like
So cool. I love this little group of people that we have. I like this Blade Runner ass underbelly city, and I love a good like one last job. You know,
it's very noir. I mean, like it's very it's very fun in that way. While we're going through the city, Switch, of course, they're I think they're on a train, and we hear sort of a prayer chanted, and I just want to read the prayer here. Attend, you children of earth, the sun and hour is now. Through sacrifice there is rebirth. Through prayer and disavow the evils of your heart and age, and by your faith renew what Mother Earth and Emperor themselves made green for you. What do you make of this sort of like world building element of this like little prayer here? It's very Tolkien-esque in the way that it's just sort of there, you know?
Yeah.
What's it tell you about the chantry and the religion? You know?
I don't like them.
You don't like them? I don't like them. Can't do it. Make a little sun disk yourself.
Yeah, I was like, no, I don't know. To me, like, it's cool to get a view of kind of this side of the religion of the chantry, where we're mostly just getting like the like inquisitor side of the torturous pieces of shit in the higher up like military side of the Chantry. It's nice to like get some world building of like what an everyday, like what the people experience of the Chantry, what that actual religion is. But it's still just so propagandized. Any religion that is inherently within its singular prayer talking about the emperor in the same sentence it talks about their god, which is Mother Earth, that's not cool.
Yeah. I mean, we do get a couple of different things about like William and the original like God Emperor a couple of times here throughout this week as well, which kind of again harkens back to this poem to kind of give us clarity. And we'd kind of gotten little bits of that before, but not quite this much.
It's also something that we're going to talk about more in a future episode, but it is really interesting having this little tidbit coming straight out of the Lesser Devil, which we read. Can't say too much more about it, but there's some great breakdowns of the religious aspects of the Chantry and where those things come from and kind of the specific ways that it was propagandized within the Lesser Devil.
I'm realizing that this is a uniquely odd episode in so many ways because of this. It's
a two-parter. But we read something else.
We read something else, but we're not talking about it.
We're going to talk about it. There's a winter storm. Kross is dying. So, but yeah, I didn't think too much of it whenever it was there, but looking at it now, I'm like, I don't like these guys. So,
fair.
There's some shit I'll need to talk about, but it's not until later. But it's in my mind whenever I think about this, and I'm going to go off on it whenever we get there. And it involves whenever Hadrian's talking about like, not like we can't comprehend morality of a different species that perceives the universe differently than us inherently.
Yes, that's in like the
that's going to be
chapter?
Next episode.
Yeah. I think that's in chapter 12. Yeah,
but this does kind of make me think about it because I think that the things
Sanders says that I think, or it's an interesting mix of things. We'll talk about it when we get there.
Hadrian of later, not Hadrian in person, writes like a whole thing about it.
Yes, there's like a 4-page diatribe, kind of interspersed with dialogue. Yeah,
this just should jump ahead a tiny bit. Within all of that, he lists all these different, like, truly morally evil things that wouldn't be seen that way by this other type of creature that it just experiences reality differently than us. And the entire time I was thinking, like, this doesn't even scratch the surface of the evil I've already seen the fucking Empire do. Fuck these guys. That's all. Yeah. They're like, oh, but the aliens eat people. And I'm like, did you see what the Empire did to the aliens? Like, not to mention to their own goddamn people. They be slitting noses and putting people in a death ring. Switch got sold as a child to be a sex slave to an old man. Like,
Yeah, right.
Yeah. This idea of like, the moral quandary of the Cielsen and how they actually are monsters. And I was like, you guys are fucking monsters.
Yeah. You guys are the real monsters here. Cool. Yeah. I really love this segment. I really love the sort of prayer and the world building that does in addition to sort of the context that we get over the course of the story. And again, in relation to some of the components in the Lesser Devil, which we'll talk about on episode 3. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right. Oh, also in this section, speaking of the horrors of the Empire and Switch, there was like just a really quick sentence that I liked. I don't know, where they pass by like a brothel and Hadrian's like sensing Switch's like discomfort seeing that, like we moved quickly like into a different alleyway, and I thought that was just like a nice moment as a friend. He like noticed like Switch based on his life sees that and feels very uncomfortable, and we're gonna like move on. So.
Yep, we're gonna quickly pass over that. Right. Yeah. We do then move into contacting our local contact here, Krim, who leads them into a drug house that Hadrian compares to coffee, like you mentioned earlier, bitter, dark, and unpleasant. Their contact is under the impression that they want atomics, but these novices can't stop saying their contact's name aloud, calling him the Painted Man. The other contact that is connecting them, Samir, gives Hadrian a hard time, clearly able to see that he was born a Palatine man, before finally agreeing to introduce them to the Painted Man here. But
I went on like a whole tangent back in book 1 at some point where I was like, how does nobody realize this guy's Palatine? You know, he's literally designed to be a different version of the species than everyone else. Right. So whenever this guy's like, you're Palatine, I was like, yeah, thank you.
Thank you for noticing. Yeah, right.
Exactly. His milk white skin, his skin the color of new cream, and his pitch black hair
skin,
and his glowing eyes and his 6 foot something stature that didn't give it away.
Yeah, the violet eyes didn't give that away. Right.
Yeah. The fact that he's an anime character and everyone else is just people, like that didn't.
He keeps going ooh woo, and I'm confused.
Yeah, he keeps going. Yeah. Nani? Yeah, and people understand that you're Palatine and the main character here, Hadrian.
Yeah.
The contact we don't get, Samir, we don't get much with, other than just like he's a sleazy, like underground businessman, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We don't get much in Samir, right?
Yeah. Oh, this kind of jumps back earlier, but now that we're here with Samir and Krim, there's an interesting thing that I do like the way how it's thrown in there, where whenever Hadrian is talking to Cassandra Lynn back in like chapter 1, it's like, oh, we've set it up because we're going to be trying to buy like atomics. And he's like, oh, we should be trying to buy devils. And Cassandra has like a, oh, good heavens moment whenever even suggesting to pretend to buy, you know, machines with intelligence or cyborg type implants or anything like that. So it's cool to see like, the level of instilled fear of that type of technology that is just deep within imperial kids, whether they're believers or not in the rest of the religion. That's just like there.
Yeah, it's interesting, that sort of like deep-seated fear, right? Like it's real. It's gonna, I mean, it tangibly exists today, right?
Yeah.
You know,
and Valka's just rolling her eyes every time it gets brought up. She's like, I literally have
guys,
like the mainframe hacked into the back of my spine, but
I am a demon. Yeah, in your terms. Yeah.
Ooh.
Spooky. And then we do get spooky demons later, so we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, wait a minute. Okay, maybe they're pretty scary.
maybe it is a little fucked up if you take it to an extreme. Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like I would like whatever drug they're doing in this place, because it's described as smelling like coffee tastes, you know, bitter, dark, and super tasty.
Yeah,
so
bitter, dark, and amazing.
That's how coffee tastes. It's good.
Yeah, eat shit. People
like does coffee. Hadrian not like coffee? Or
I think Hadrian doesn't. Yeah,
does Chris Verrocchio actually think that we all were going to agree with him right there?
I don't know.
It's like, you know how coffee's gross.
Yeah, and then literally in this next chapter, The Painted Man, we switch from like the vibe of the cyberpunk cityscape and drug den to this stately tea house in the Nipponese fashion, which is intended to be this like blend of I think in particular mostly Japanese culture with, under my impression, South Korean, not Chinese by most of the aesthetics. But
yeah, I mean that makes sense. They're playing K-pop in there, right? So
yeah, that's what's happening. K-pop Demon Hunters is running on the background. But I just he similarly says that he doesn't like tea, and it's like, God fucking damn it, dude. Yeah, right.
Which I actually I don't know much about our lovely author here. Is Chris Verrocchio's American or English or
American? Yeah,
American.
North Carolina. Yeah,
North Carolina. Cool. Because I was like, hates coffee, must be English. Hates tea, that's American. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know. Neither.
Where?
Who
are you?
Enjoys drinking. Okay, that is American.
Wine,
yeah,
I guess.
Right. Right.
But then he has the Jaddy and Brandy, which sounds great to me, and he's like, ew.
Yeah. Right. Because it's like Fireball, I think, kind of mostly, or like Yeg, or not Yeg. We said Goldschlager or something like that. But yeah.
Yeah, it was like it was like a Goldschlager Fireball. Shooter. All right, you know, he was valid on that one.
Yeah, right. Wrong, correct in one case. Hadrian right for the first time ever.
For the first
headline.
Breaking
New
Earth
just
Times.
Yeah,
Hadrian right for once.
Yeah. New Colchis Times.
It'll
Hadrian
be another
White.
50 years till that happens.
5,500. But that said, Nipponese fashion here.
No, because he's right again in this section.
About what?
Whenever he blames himself for Gin's death.
Oh, right. Yeah. Right. Yep.
Yeah, totally valid.
Yeah.
Right there.
Totally valid. Hadrian Wright a second time within pages. Yeah. But the horrific Painted Man, right? Like the description of the Painted Man is truly something out of like a horror novel in an incredible way. He's a homunculus as well, with pupil, black eyes, the whole thing. And more besides, from the skin, from the tattoos, from the clothes that he's wearing, as this sort of like skull, like everywhere. He is very clearly a shapeshifter in many ways, and is horrifying to Hadrian upon his initial impression. There's this
Oh my
line
God,
that's
I
like,
love how he's keep going.
we evolved to have whites in our eyes so that we knew where humans were focusing, and that's what freaks him out so much about this, is he cannot tell where he's looking.
Oh my God. And him not having actual like physical expressions, but just the pigment on his face changing into the semblance of a smile.
Right. Yeah.
As it spreads. His too many teeth as his smile goes from a normal thing stretching all the way up until it touches his ears. Like, oh my God. Like, didn't realize we were reading a horror novel, but thanks. That's so sick. No, this is one of my favorite like general characters of like any sci-fi ever. He's so sick.
Yeah.
He doesn't last very long, but he's so sick.
He's
evil, terrifying, terrible, but like such a cool design, such a cool description, such a cool character.
Yeah, like there's something uniquely terrifying about this that, I think that one of the things that a lot of people get turned off on by the idea, especially if you're like a classic sci-fi or fantasy reader, you're like, fantasy can be anything. Science fiction has to be grounded in some semblance of reality, right? Yeah. And while this is grounded a little bit in that reality of like, oh, like if we can alter whatever, we can do whatever, it's also like so far out of what you might imagine like someone doing that it's like, oh shit. Like the Dryad was already like a little bit of that introduction of like, oh, a tree person in so many ways. That makes sense. Oh shit, a man that's like a painted pigment, like in so many ways,
God,
like that's interesting.
And like
it's very fantasy.
Maybe that is a big part of why this book is hitting harder up front for me. Not like I think there's like a jump in writing strength, but also like I think it's because it is embracing more of those fantasy elements.
Sure. And sci-fi simultaneously. Yeah.
Which this whole next scene is so sick. I listened to this one twice, like this whole section with the painted man, the conversation, and then kind of the chaos of afterwards twice, because as soon as I finished it one time before I even moved on to the next part, I was like, I gotta listen to that shit again. That was so cool.
I will say what's interesting for me is in my initial read and in my reread, even listening to this is the only section of all of the books that I did what you did. My brain tunes out a little bit because of Varukin's narration. And I have a weird time with not how he visualizes it, but I almost don't feel like I get enough menace from the painted man, and or he kind of like skates over it a little bit too quickly.
Yeah.
And I read it physically this time, and I loved it so much more. Like it sunk in with me reading it physically.
I will say
This is the only time in 7 books that I feel this way. Like
he does well with it, but I will say like the description of the painted man's voice and then the approach that he takes for the painted man did bug me a little bit. I'm like, that's not as unhuman, weird, slithery as I thought. Right. You're just kind of talking slow. But then like he kind of falls into it a little bit stronger. But you're right. There is kind of these moments that like should have this extreme tenseness to it.
Venom.
And I did actually like slow it down, and that helped a little bit, but like
sure.
I see what you mean.
Yeah, it was just weird. I got so much more out of reading this section in particular by comparison, versus like, obviously I listen each week and I read each week, but this was just one that I was like, even in my re-listen, because I only mostly listened the first time through the series outside of exceptions, in chunks and whatnot, I was glad that I physically read it this time because I got way more out of it, and I appreciated this section way more. Part of the reason that this was 12 chapters to begin with is because I did not remember it particularly fondly. I was like, I don't think that the detail here is that good, but all of this stuff is important. It's good. And then rereading it physically, I went, oh, fuck yeah, this is so good. We have to make this 2 episodes. Like,
I
can't believe I fucked up. Yeah.
I think it's so cool, personally.
I love it too now. I love it too now. Like, I was just, initially, I was like, eh.
Yeah. Man, I think he's described so cool. I think that the part we move into after this, where we get introduced to the Psalms, fucking rocks.
Very cool. That's when this picks up. It's just this
Yeah.
chapter and the chapter before in particular. They're like, I never got a sense of scope in the right way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in a unique circumstance, I do pin that on Rukin here. And again, I don't think, in my opinion, that comes up for the rest of the series. Like, I don't think that he like misses in a section that like Christopher maybe also doesn't miss. Like there, yeah, it's never like a mismatch of writing to narrator outside of this section, in my opinion.
Good to know.
But I do want to make mention of Hadrian continuing to press for information, asking for more about the extrasolarians, explicitly looking for the location of its masters, to which the Painted Man dismisses this idea, showing those teeth and otherwise, as they aren't organized in the way that an empire is, as he says, just a loose group of people vaguely associated with each other because they've broken off in their strange entities. Hadrian presses further and says that he's looking to trade with the Cielsen and that it seems like this is happening on Vorgossos. As sort of a general summary. As an element of this, however, he catches on to Hadrian's ruse that he doesn't actually want the atomics.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because he talks about like he talks about how, oh, like your masters, he's like, we don't have any, like we don't have a hierarchy, where that's not how it's set up. But then he also goes on to talk about like the Undying and like how this person that's clearly in charge. So I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, later there's a lot about the Undying, and we'll talk more about that specifically when we get to those quotes after this action blasted chapter and a half. But
yeah, I feel like he's like overplaying their freedom and individualism as extrasolarians,
sure,
to a degree. But also, I mean, I'm sure it's still less, organized and specific than like an empire, obviously. But I think that there is a type of hierarchy that's definitely there that is being dismissed, maybe less than honestly. Yeah, it's interesting that he catches on to it, but he doesn't seem to, I guess, deny that there is trade happening with the Cielsen,
right?
Vorgossos. And that's something to that's not nothing.
Yeah, tensions rise as they're kind of having this conversation about Vorgossos and otherwise, and sort of the Undying and those other things coming to the surface. It seems like something is definitely going wrong. They're clearly like Hadrian is kind of muscled in on by a couple of people pushing back. Switch and Ilex, I think, are over his shoulders at the time. Maybe Greenlaw. But there's a sniper blast from Gen as he finally intervenes, and the troop intervene on the scene, but it all doesn't break into chaos as it all seems to remain controlled. Hadrian kills another of the men challenging the Painted Man. He replies, I told you, you don't know what we are, before he slips into the crowd of the tea house, all of them suddenly standing silent in unison.
Yeah, as soon as that happened, I was like, okay, what the fuck's going on? They all work for him or what? But then this whole description that comes after it.
Yeah.
If we're able to jump ahead a little
well,
bit.
We definitely can, and I definitely want to. I wanted to make mention of something here. We were a part of a D&D podcast in which I played a character that was a part of a group that only spoke one at a time. I got the same sort of haunting vibes out of this as I did that while playing in those moments and those scenes. This is sort of more of what I almost imagine them to be, although individual wills and like opting in versus like machines that we'll talk about in a moment.
Yeah.
But I mean, fuck, if that isn't terrifying in either context. Yeah.
Oh man, just I guess no one reacting to the gunshot was odd. I'm like, oh, maybe that's just so common here. People just don't really care. And then they all stand up in unison. I'm like, okay, there's something going on. What exactly is the situation? And then we get this long description about like the idea of like a living soul being visible within a person's eyes, and whatever it is, whether it's a soul or
eyes
some
like stars, baby.
Fluid,
yeah.
It leaves the eyes upon death, and what Hadrian sees staring back at him by this sea of people standing in unison,
dead eyes,
are like legitimately, honestly dead corpse eyes.
You sent me this text, and I feel like everyone else deserves to hear it as well. We were kind of talking. You were like, this book rips right off the bat. I said, yeah, Rocky is mostly done fucking around now. And you said, book one, a slow paced but hauntingly human tome pondering the melancholy of an inhumanly long existence in a cold and unfeeling universe. Book two, robot zombies.
Hell yeah, let's go. Yeah. And I stand by that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like listening to this, expecting it to be like a tense situation, but then to kind of skip over action or something, and then we just hit a full on like Kingsman fight sequence against robot zombies.
Right,
and it just keeps going, and it's so rad, and he's carving through people with his High Matter's sword, and Gin is physically tearing them apart with his bare hands, and there's sniper fire going off, and there's a chase sequence where in like a John Wick hallway scene.
Right. I mean, these, I call them thralls sort of in the notes here because we don't know that they're Psalms yet in particular, but like taunts him from the various thralls. Hadrian and crew fight through them as best as they can. Marlowe cutting several in half of the High Matter blade, which we see him wield for the first time, which is cool as he kind of cleaves people apart. Hadrian finally makes it to one of the downed men, having cleaved through dozens of his people along the way. But the bodies on the ground claw at him and grasp like zombies, like Terminator, it's sort of like scratching back up after being cut in half, It's very, very fun.
There's like a top half reaching for its legs at one point, and then it's like kill them individually. That moment whenever there's like a very haunting moment where he realizes that realizes these are dead eyes, and it's weird, but where the blood happens, then he realizes there's something else in there, and I like that it's like this white fluid which is ripped straight from Alien,
Right.
And oh man, that's whatever like this whole scene takes on that just chaotic like horror, and like to me it's scary, but it's cool. But to Hadrian, these are literal fucking demons crawling out of hell itself to come haunt his nightmares. Like, it's this book rips off the bat.
Yeah, it does not fuck around.
Robot zombies.
Robot zombies right away. And that said, like, I love so many of the things that you mentioned in this, but like Gen manages to pick up Hadrian from what seems like death. They continue their fight forward, pass a lady with a knife, and Gen agrees to Hade's plan. And specifically, Hadrian notes that he almost never called him Hade as well, which is like a whole thing, leading to a sad final note of the conflict as most of the other people, the Peltasts, die over the course of this, leaving Switch, Hadrian, and Ilex as the only one left as the painted man stuns Marlowe after having blown out Gen's chest with a plasma blaster with someone of whom copied the face of like one of the other Peltasts to confuse and then kill Gen. Betrayed by his own people. Basically. Again.
Yeah. Man. And this is the first chance we get to see, like, we know that the painted man kind of has like a weird slithery pigment face, but this is where we get to see this is legitimately a shapeshifter.
Right.
There's that moment where he shifts here between images, and there's like an in-between state, which I'm guessing is like more of the pure real, this is the actual form of the painted man. That's just like so weird and scary, like super thin, just like a weird black, like, I don't know. I maybe I could grab it and just read that section, but like there's this in-between moment that is so haunting and weird and inhuman before he takes on the next form. And we got shapeshifters. There's also this part of me. I'm like, hey, if they made one painted man, are there more? Are we gonna have to deal with shapeshifters that can take on faces and voices moving forward? That's crazy. That's a whole threat that I didn't know we were gonna have to deal with. So cool. So sick, so good for Hadrian.
So sick, so good. So fun.
Yeah. But RIP again.
Yeah, big ripped again.
Shot in the back by someone wearing his friend's face.
Which is so brutal. Right. Rest in peace, buddy. All right. Well, with that, we have our final chapter of this episode of the show. This is, of course, the road to Vorgossos. Hadrian wakes up sitting in front of the painted man surrounded by masks, of course, which is such a haunting image for his to be around these Eudorian drama masks, as we assume, as it's described. He explains his use in keeping him alive to ransom him back to his own company, the Red Company, as many of them had destroyed so many of his psalms, which we find out the full definition of later. The creature admires Hadrian's sword for a second before morphing into the shape of Gen, horrifying Hadrian. He does toss away the sword, rejecting the idea of like Jad and things like that in sort of a disgusting way or disgusted way. Curious on your thoughts.
Yeah. Glad he tossed the sword away because that thing with the high matter sword would have been a problem. But
yeah.
I don't. Well, first thought, turning into Gen was a bad idea. That he really fucked himself up there. I like how Hadrian's like he looked like Gen, but it wasn't quite right. He sounded like Gen, but again, it wasn't perfect. Like there's these signs. They're the painted man and any future shapeshifters that maybe we deal with. I don't know. Aren't perfect recreations, and there is that level of uncanny valley to them, which much like humans evolving to have whites in their eyes so we knew where they were looking, like this idea of like our senses being something that is thrown off by something that's not quite right. Like Hadrian definitely has that going on here, and so it's interesting to see this shapeshifter being this kind of like there's something deeper in it that just the body sees and feels that isn't right, and it's unsettling. His rejecting the sword as like, yeah, he's not a sword guy, that's okay. Yeah, and then Hadrian's pretty glad he's got good blood and good kind of regenerative body situation, and is better at gravity than he used to be in the next part. So
yeah, I agreed. That's sort of where this goes, by and large, that he's able to manage his way up. But it is interesting. I find the rejection of the Jadian sword to be a little bit more compelling in that way, where it's like, wait, he was okay with it until he realized that it was Jadian, right? And then that became kind of a problem one way or another.
Do we, and this is where, my single listen through, I didn't make it on a second time.
Again, so long, so many chapters.
Yeah. Do we get we don't get much like specific reasoning his feelings on Jad.
No, there's no specific reasoning. It's just that he's reacting negatively to it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So a Jadian commissioned him.
Maybe. Interesting.
Jadian maybe commissioned more.
Yeah. And we're both creeped out by the idea of him being Gen for a second again. Rest in peace, Gen.
Rest in peace, Gen. This one is for Gen.
Ooh, a fresh one.
Yeah. I mean, it's been sitting next to me for a while.
That was the spare. Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
But yeah. Putting on my conspiracy theorist hat again here.
Ooh, making a prediction?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. There's going to be more shapeshifters.
Okay. Got it.
I think there might even be more specifically the painted man, like the same person, kind of. Like he just gets murdered in this chapter and then it's done. And I'm like, that's too interesting a character, too strange a situation, too cool a description to just kill him. But then I felt that way about a bunch of homunculi earlier in the first book, and they just didn't show back up. But yeah, I don't think we're done with the painted man, or maybe there's more than one of this creation, and probably was commissioned or created by a Jadian of some sort.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Sweet. Take him down.
From this moment, though, there's a lot of conversation in here. He does the fucking thing that Saltus did that pissed off Hadrian so much, where he's like, yeah, you're a homunculus, which I still agree with.
Right.
Hadrian
You're from a vat. I'm from a vat. Yeah.
Yeah. We're just a couple of vat boys, a couple of vatos, if you will.
Vatos, for sure.
Yeah, I just keep thinking about the Painted Man. We did joke earlier. I don't even know if this was in a Devil's Cut or before we were even recording. About David Kross playing the Painted Man. Tobias Funke.
Oh yeah. Was that in that was actually between episode, like even outside of the
Devil's Cut
because you didn't have a name in Squadcast. You always have a fun name in Squadcast, and I named you Joshua Blue himself, which is obviously a reference to the Arrested Development episode that you're mentioning. Tobias Funke. And yeah.
I haven't been able to shake that image since that joke happened, and now I'm just picturing, like, oh no, Hadrian, it seems that I've prematurely blew myself.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is especially, like, there are terrifying moments in the scene. I in particular love when he's blinking and his colors are shifting in his eyes each time he opens and closes them.
Yeah.
Including the sort of mirror that he's looking through. But Hadrian assumes that this man has escaped from Vorgossos, kind of to that point, right? And he has this quote here that kind of sticks in my head at the very least, which is, "Put you on the path. You're one of them, aren't you?
Yes.
The pilgrims.
I wanted to talk about this.
You Imperial Palatines were the worst. You came seeking immortality, youth, to change your sex. Whatever your Imperium would not allow, the Undying would give you. For a price. The Bone Cutters would make anything for you. Anyone. Soldiers. Slaves, sex objects."
The Empire will allow people to literally create vat humans that are specific little weird creatures that are blue just for the sake of having
a blue guy.
A blue guy that lives specifically in your harem as a sex slave, but they're still transphobic.
Right.
That's fucking crazy.
Right. Yep. Agreed.
Yeah, I read that one. I was like, one of these things is not like the other.
What's interesting to me is that I do think that that's logically consistent with the Empire, but it is crazy. Yeah, right. Like, it makes sense that the Empire is that way, but also
they're fascists and they pulled a lot from Christianity, so here we are. Yeah. But yeah, man, pilgrim, like, I can't shake that. What is this? What's the pilgrimage? How many people know about Vorgossos? If everybody just keeps calling it a fairy story, which I like that it's not fairy tale, it's a fairy story. But so, like, there's a lot of people that make the journey to Vorgossos to get stuff from them, but it's also maybe not real. But what's going on with the pilgrimage? Pilgrimage is a very specific word. That's not just people that found us because they wanted to buy stuff. That has like a religious connotation to it. Who are these pilgrims? How does one begin a pilgrimage? What leads to being a part of? There's a lot.
Many
stuffed
questions.
into. You're a pilgrim, aren't you?
Yeah.
I like that the Palatines are the worst because I could have told you that.
Right.
Like,
Natch.
Yeah. For sure. Seeking immortality. I definitely lock in on the seeking immortality part because I'm still wondering how Hadrian becomes half mortal. There's a line in the very beginning, I think, in the first chapter, whenever he's waking up from fugue, and he thinks, like, what is it specifically? He's like, for all intents and purposes, like, I was dead. Everything that makes me human was frozen. I was no different than like a slab of meat in a freezer. But then later I learned that that's not true, and that's not what death feels like. Like, he says again, at some point I am going to die in this story, like actually experience death. And I'm so every time he teases me with it.
He's just teasing us with it,
I'm holding to that prediction that Hadrian will literally die and be regenerated in some way later. I don't know if we're going to go Doctor Who style, like I originally said, where he'll look different, but Hadrian gonna die, fully dead, real dead, die at some point.
Okay,
and come back.
Interesting.
Holding to it,
yeah,
because he keeps bringing up like, yeah, and that's before I knew what dying was like.
And
then he'll
before I
describe
knew
a bunch
what
of
death
stuff.
was. Yeah,
He'll describe stuff that's like, if he was like, oh, I know what death feels like because I've gotten real close, then stuff he's already done counts as that. But he's dismissing that as like, but that's not actually what death feels like. I would know. So I don't know why Hadrian's considered half mortal, and I don't know why old Hadrian knows what it's like to die.
Yeah, as one might not.
Sorry, that was a huge move from what we were talking about.
I mean, it's very important to note that like this is sort of the nature of the story, right? Is it's like we've got multiple layers of future and past context at all times, and I appreciate that you're bringing it up because it isn't just the sort of immediate text of it. You're at the very least considering the meta text as it's culminating, right?
Exactly, and within that, like whoever the master of Vorgossos is, even though they have no masters, but there is one. It's named the Undying.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons that the Palatine pilgrims come to Vorgossos is seeking immortality. There seems to be some sort of through line link to the one big thing that we don't know about Hadrian from that initial like
description
opening sequence. Yeah. We know why he's demon tongued now. We don't know why he's half mortal.
Yeah.
We know he's going to do some like patricide and fratricide at some
fucked up shit. There's a lot of fucked up shit.
He's definitely going to eat a son at some point. Who could say? But I feel like we're playing on the half mortal side of things quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's such a major piece of who he becomes that like maybe in this book we'll figure out why he is half mortal.
Speaking of interesting plights of mortality and immortality, there's an interesting note that comes in here right after this, which is, you remind me of the monster in Shelley's Frankenstein, a reminder that mankind's reach exceeds her grasp. What? It's a story about a scholiast who creates a homunculus. This was before there were homunculi, in truth. I think it was before we understood genetics, before Apollo gave us the moon. The scholiast makes his homunculus from the bodies of the dead, sewing their parts together. He imagines, as all artists must, that his work will be a masterpiece, more beautiful than nature. Quite like a Palatine, I suppose. Only it isn't. His skill was not up to the task. He made a monster. The scholiast spurned his creation out of loathing and fled, and the monster fled itself. And here you are.
Interesting. Whenever he says Apollo gave us the moon, is he just referring to the moon landing?
He is, but I think simultaneously he doesn't know that it's not like a god. You know what I mean? Like he
exactly.
Just,
and that's when Apollo gave us the moon. Like that's part of the Chantry religion, but it's just based off of the Apollo moon landing.
But I do think that it's associated with Apollo the god.
Yeah.
Because like it would make sense for potentially for like the sun god to give us the moon, in some way.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's a weird mythological blend of like reality and fiction, which is fun.
Which that poetry.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I love bringing up Frankenstein here. It's such a perfect pull for homunculi
the
and
painted
this
man.
entire nature of the situation. I think it's a bit too much of maybe a compliment to the painted man to say that he looks like Jacob Elordi, but
I mean, he could look like Jacob Elordi
if he wanted to.
Yeah. I do appreciate this, considering I think especially the comparison to the painted man having fled, as like a creation of someone,
Yeah,
like there's an interesting
all around he's
note there.
very Frankenstein's monster. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's really doing the Frankenstein's monster. Well, he's kind of Frankenstein's monster, but now he's doing the full-on Frankenstein, where he's taking bits and pieces of things and piecing them together to make people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
With the Psalms. So, wild.
Yep.
He literally has an army of Frankenstein's monsters under his control. I like the description of like a scholiast making a homunculus, because it's exactly what it is, but like it's just fun to kind of being in a second book, having like the kind of the standardized background of the story. It's like it's interesting that we get to kind of start having those little moments where it's like the language is changing, but we understand it because like we have the backgrounds to understand it. Whenever you get like book 10 of a big fantasy series and there's like an entire paragraph that's basically just in a different language, but you totally get what they're saying.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I'm in. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And this series does become that in so many ways, where it's like,
okay, yeah.
oh yeah, the extras were fucking around with the scoliasts and like whatever the hell. Like you just get these like layers upon layers of like, and then they went to Jod, and then the Normans were involved, and you're like, okay, well, and you're
I'm
like,
following.
Oh, wait, I actually get the nations now. Like I get the thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All I know is Jadians are supposed to be sexy as hell. So, you know, I'm Team Jad right now. We'll see how I feel later whenever we actually get to see it.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I never get to see it, in which case, what was the fucking point?
There is so much good dialogue and so many good quotes here that happen throughout this entire section. I pulled a lot more in the next section that we're going to talk about in next week's episode, as most people will listen to it, of course. But I do want to talk about this final one that kind of closes out our week. I think with any other notes that you have, we can obviously come back to them, or we can talk about them, in the next episode if necessary. But Satan had his companions, fellow devils, to admire and encourage him, but you are solitary and abhorred. Are you always like this? Melodramatic? Oh, yes, I said with my customary lopsided grin. Ask anyone who knows me.
And it's back. He's getting a catchphrase.
Yeah. Hadrian manages to get up per the muscles that you'd mentioned earlier, the gravity that we had talked about, and he slings a rock at the creature to get up over it, smashes it to pieces, just bashing it in before securing its silver terminal disc and heading out.
Yeah, I was like, oh, he hit him with the rock, and now he's going to escape, and then the painted man's going to be a whole thing we're going to have to deal with, and then he just kills him, and I was like,
fucking got him. Yeah.
All right, well, maybe we'll get more shapeshifters later, but that one's done. So, shit. I felt like I mentioned this in the first book, too. Sometimes the first book, I can't speak to this one yet, feels really slow, or like it's taking a long time to get there. And then sometimes in 2 chapters, they'll just do the whole story. And you're like, whoa,
you're like, hang on. In a lot of other cases, that could have been a book.
Exactly. And that's this right here. Right. I was like, oh, and I guess we're done with this. And let's go get some noodles. So,
right.
Yeah. But man, the Satan and his companions, I think he even kind of mentions to himself, like, whether it's intentional or not, like, implementing himself into that as a Marlowe devil, capering devil, bringing that imagery back, embracing his lopsided Alistarian grin here. I don't know. There's a lot of cool layers to that sentence, but at the end of the day, I just like it whenever melodramatic. Oh yes, ask anyone who knows me. It's back. We're so back, baby.
So back. We're so back. This is quintessential Hadrian Marlowe. I think what I understand what you're saying, especially in comparison to the previous story, where it's like, oh, we went so quickly through this. I think, in my opinion, and like you said, you don't know the rest of the text yet. So, but I think in my opinion, this is showing like a vignette real quick to remind us as to who this whole 6 chapter segment is mostly catch up. This is mostly, hey, here's the world, here's where Hadrian's at, here's Volca, here's Janan, here are like all these characters.
It's like, here's the types of missions they've been going on for 50 years.
Exactly. Like this is the space of time that they've occupied over the course of time. We're going to give you a mini bite here, and an exciting bite. And now, like, take that bait and continue through.
It's the opening scene of Age of Ultron, where they're smashing the last Hydra base.
Exactly. Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't want to use that as an emblem for the rest of the story, though. Although I unabashedly love Age of Ultron. I'm a
Same.
Total. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. I like it more than the original Avengers, to be clear. But
fumbled Thor's whole storyline, but other than that,
it's totally fine. Cool. All right, well, with that, this is the end of this week's episode, unless you have anything else that you want to bring up.
Again
one more time. We're gonna come back to that one more time and one more time. That said, I do want to mention, of course, as mentioned, we are going to be talking about things unseen, things remembered through a journey's end next week. So that will be sort of the ongoing conversation that we'll be having. Very excited.
Probably with some weird little jump backs like we do in an episode to previous sections, because we're recording this all
back
at once.
Yeah. In a way. So we're very excited, of course, to continue. Hope you enjoyed this little hour and a half episode. Let us know if you kind of like this sort of format and length. That's like a different thing to consider too. Just any feedback appreciated across the different channels.
Positive feedback only. My little heart can't take it.
Man, we had someone leave a comment on Spotify about like us talking about healthcare for like a hot second in the first episode, and being like, leftists can't shut up about capitalism and healthcare. And I was like, buddy,
yeah,
grow up.
Probably not the podcast for you, man. That's all right.
Yeah. I lit that. I smiley face, and I was like, you don't have to listen anymore. And that's like, that's good. That's cool.
I actually, we should be talking about healthcare more.
Yeah, frankly, that's not our core feature of the podcast, but also, fuck off, dude. Totally fine.
I'll keep talking about healthcare.
We'll talk about whatever the hell we want.
The harms of capitalism, as long as other people are mad that Bad Bunny's playing the Super Bowl. So,
and people,
when you guys can shut up about anything, I'll shut up about human rights.
Yeah, right. And this is recorded right before Bad Bunny is playing the Super Bowl. So
exactly.
So again, I do want to shout out. Thank you so much for our new Patreon. We have a new patron this week joining us. That is Malia. Malia, thank you so much for supporting the show. In addition, we have someone of whom is going to be sponsoring an upcoming episode that I want to make mention of. Thank you, Gus. Super excited to... It's going to take us a bit because it's a lot to read, but we're going to be talking about Musashi by Ije Yoshikawa, of which I'm very excited to talk about in the long run. So probably like an April-May episode if I'm a betting man, but we'll get there.
I had mentioned to Crossland that I have read the Book of Five Rings written by Miyamoto Musashi, and I don't think I mentioned this, but I have from whenever I was doing martial arts, I got a gift, which is a Musashi. I mean, obviously, it's like made by the company that is a continuation of, but it's a very, very expensive sword that I have.
Oh, cool!
That's awesome. Musashi Elite Series sword, and I love it. So I'm very excited to read that because I've
it fits in. Yeah, that's like a lifestyle. I've
been
a
a fan of Miyamoto Musashi for like a long time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
As a teen, it's like I'm going back to teenage Josh. So
cool. I'm really excited. That makes me more excited even. I was pretty pumped to do this. Again, you can join us and support us, patreon.com/words and whiskey. If you want to support us in other ways, follow us on social media variously. You can find us Instagram, Blue Sky, predominantly. I need to give you logins still. I don't know why I haven't done that. Kenny logins.
It's fine. I can't be trusted with social media. I'll just be saying stuff.
Yeah, no, we appreciate you just saying stuff, especially on the threads and the Blue Skies, because that's great. But beyond that, I want to say, do you want to recommend people leave us a review places?
Yeah.
wordsandwhiskeyshow@gmail.com. Send us emails.
And also, wherever you listen, watch, enjoy, please give us a like, subscribe, follow, and leave us a 5-star review because it helps out a bunch. And also it makes me feel good. And I like feeling good that people like me 5 stars amounts. And if you don't, that's okay. I'm just going to turn into one of your loved ones, steal their face, wait for you to turn your back, shoot you through the chest, plasma burner, and then kidnap your friend and then turn into you after they just watched you die. And then mock them while they're stunned in my living room.
Yikes! With that, reader, dear listener, even there are endings, and this is one. See you later. Bye.